Hi, welcome to Tactics. This is our first ever live stream. It's been requested by quite a lot of people and we thought we'd go ahead. Any feedback would be greatly appreciated on how we can improve it. And we're sure that as we go along, things will keep improving in terms of this video on the tactical analysis. First one we're going to cover is Michael Carrick, and we're looking at the Manchester Derby and their well-deserved 2-0 victory from the weekend. We're going to cover Manchester United in possession, and in particular the role of Bruno Fernandes higher up the pitch and between the lines, and out of possession, the 4-4-2 compact block that they use and how they're defended in wide areas. Mikey, who's the other member of Tactics alongside myself, is going to cover some of the weaknesses that Manchester City showed throughout the game and how they could have hurt Manchester United's structure throughout the game. To begin with, we're just going to look at Manchester United in possession. And in particular, like we said, Bruno Fernandes, the number 8 in this scenario. He'll be looking to drop off the centre backs and try and play in between the spaces of Rodri and the two young players who were playing at centre back. This caused all sorts of problems, whether that was with communication issues or relatively new relationships between the three players. But Bruno had a brilliant game playing in between the lines in what we think is his best position. First clip we're going to look at, and we just want to highlight Bruno Fernandes in this position. So he's just trying to pick the ball up in this space between the defence and midfield. Just going to highlight him there, up with Mbeumo. And this was the problem for Manchester City between these three players in terms of picking him up. And Mikey's just going to cover the problems that Rodri, Kujanov and Max Alane had.
Yeah, I think we've covered this before in a tactical analysis piece, and it was actually aimed around Rodri. And when you're playing against a 4-4-2, it's really important that your two centre-backs are connected to your six, as you can clearly see here. Now, if you just play it forward a little bit, mate, so I can just highlight the wide players. So as we can see here, Semenyo, if he's the trigger to press from the front line, Rodri needs to hold a deeper position. That gives them the +1 with the two centre-backs. The problem here is when they're pressed from the side, so Semenyo or Doku, Rodri was still in no man's land. And I felt this was a real issue. Now, I don't know if it was a tactical thing, but it just didn't help the two young lads out. And I think this scenario here, Rodri's experience in terms of where he's at, should have known, unless it was a strategy that was non-negotiable, he should have dropped deeper and sort of protected the two young lads. And you've seen this like as a theme. Rodri gets caught in between all the time. And I think that just played into Fernandes' hands.
Yeah, so as we move the play on, we see Silva's not going to get quite tight enough with Casemiro, who plays the ball first time around the corner. Fernandes can get turned, and this is where he's at his best. He launches a Manchester United attack down the right. Next slide, this is actually starting from a goal kick, and we're going to highlight Fernandes and Mbeumo straight away. They're going to drop a little bit deep, and it's almost like a 4-2-2-2 structure with the wide players on the front line. But again, we're going to look at the three players of Manchester City that's going to cause problems for. Ball goes to the goalkeeper, finds a good link pass into Maguire, but already we can see Fernandes trying to play between the lines. And Rodri now is starting to recognise there's problems. Just going to hold it now as the ball goes into Maguire. Mikey, do you want to just cover the problems again with that three players of Manchester City?
Yeah, again, so they locked it in with Haaland. And I think what I've just mentioned before is if the press from the sides, Rodri needs to hold shape. If the press from the centre, so I think it was Silva and Foden in this game, then that's where he jumps on. But when you're looking at this scenario here, it just wasn't done early enough. But again, that message needed to be, if they're set up in a 4-4-2 with Fernandes and Mbeumo up top, Rodri needs to stay deep and stays connected. And again, we've done a piece on this. But what happens is they just did it too late. Now, if Rodri shifts onto the back line early, then the young centre-half can step out and get tight to Fernandes. And then it's the same on the other side. But because they get caught in between, Kuznov now drops deep, which is the right thing to do because you don't want the ball to go in beyond and stay in front of you. But then, to be fair, Man United here, I think it's Maguire on the ball, finds an unbelievable pass into Mbeumo. And again, this is obviously something they've worked on. But just that split second of just not switching on and getting organised early. Now, yeah, we can say that this is down to the two young centre-backs. but Rodri should have that experience as well in terms of knowing when to drop and when to go on the front foot. And
Yes, what
what
we're saying,
passes to Barry?
Rodri's doing the right thing here, but it's just not done quick enough, and there's still confusion. Rodri's the best number six in the world, but he's playing with two players that are relatively young. We don't know what the communication's out there, but this is right in terms of what he's done in terms of dropping the defensive line. But we can see Rodri and Kuznov are going one way, and Buemo's going to come the other way and pick up the ball up from what Mikey explained as a brilliant pass from Maguire.
Yeah, it's a great pass. I mean, who's expecting him to play that from there?
Yeah, good link-up play. Success in terms of getting over the halfway line, but unfortunately offside in this instance. Next clip, again, we're just going to highlight Fernandes and that confusion between Kuznov and Rodri. Ball's going to be switched into Martinez, whose passing forward was brilliant all game. But it's at this point now, Kuznov is passing Fernandes onto Rodri. And again, if the communication's better, he would probably stay tight and Rodri can drop. Now Fernandes links with Mainu again, players switched on the right-hand side. Dalot makes a little bit of a mess of this one, but again, it's a dangerous situation. Anything on that, Mikey?
Yeah, if you just rewind to when it highlights Rodri and Kushanov, just testing your skills here now.
Yeah, first time.
I know I had to do it.
Yep. Is that okay?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. So I know we've just mentioned this a few times, but it happened all the time. And you're looking at Fernandez, who's, for me anyway, he's got the attributes to be one of the best tens in the world. And he probably already is. And I think, obviously, credit to Carrick and his coaching team of already putting him in the right position. And this is what he's about. He's unbelievable working in the shadows and being a predator in there. Now, the problem here is Rodri's only just coming back from fitness and a long spell out. So again, this is where I was a little bit disappointed, and I know it's difficult when we're questioning Pep, the best manager in the world, but I just think they should have looked at this and gone, let's help these out here. And Rodri just needs to shift into the back line, which is less movements, and Kushanov can come out. And I think the two young lads will take to that because it's easy information for them. And then Rodri covers. As the ball switches across the play, Rodri's just not up to speed yet, so he's not getting across quick enough. And again, they just get caught in between. And Fernandez is loving this role at the moment, then links up well.
Yeah, what'll be really interesting this weekend is against Arsenal, how they do the same movement, especially Fernandes against Gabriel, Saliba, and probably Zubimendi will be in that role because they're a lot more well drilled than what we see with Manchester City. So it'll be an interesting one if Manchester United try and use the same patterns of play building up, and if Fernandes does have the same success in terms of turning and facing the opponent's goal.
Yeah, 100%.
Just let that one
That's
flow.
where I thought you were going to make a mistake. You're doing well here so far,
Oh,
mate.
it's all right, isn't it? Don't speak too early though. Okay, final one, and this is Manchester City in possession. Again, we're going to highlight Fernandes' position. And you might have seen training drills on Twitter this week in terms of Manchester United protecting central areas and finding a forward pass early. So they protect the central area as well. And there it is. The pass is now on to Fernandes to release the counter attack. And Fernandes is dangerous in these positions. He's going to get turned. He's going to look forward. And Mikey just wants to cover a little bit on the Manchester City rest defense in this scenario.
I mean, first of all, let's put a point on Fernandez and let's put a coaching point on it. If you're working with a player like Fernandez and he's playing in that 10 role, so you've got the two sixes and you've got him on his own, if you want to try get him in the game the most, just give him a little challenge in terms of can you always be in a position where yes, you can help us out defensively, but when the ball turns over, that you can receive that forward pass. And I thought he was absolutely unbelievable at this, which I think we all knew that he would be. But you can see that most times when Man United turned the ball over, he was in a position where he was working in the shadows off Rodri. Now, flipping it to Man City, and I think Rodri, again, obviously one of the best, if not the best six in the world, he should be thinking, am I in a position where I can support the build-up or play an in phase? But also, if the ball turns over, how can I deal with Fernandes? And then just because we've got the back three players here highlighted, it'll probably be different if Diaz and Stones in there because there could be his eyes behind the ball and communicating with him all the time. And because the game happens so quick in the Premier League, you need them people behind you. But he's just slightly been drawn in, and then the ball's been turned over, and then they've played in. Then again, you can see the movement off this, the break so quickly, and then Mbeumo makes that inside movement, and again, it's just great play from Man United.
Yeah, we'll let it play. But again, when you watch Diaz at centre back, he doesn't shut up. That's the type of control he would have had over Rodri, and he'd have seen that danger before it started.
Yeah, and that's where communication comes in. You know, you've been there as a centre half. If the better you are at communicating, you can solve the problem before it happens.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if you've got two young players behind you, you know, they just haven't got that experience, probably don't feel confident enough to have a voice. But again, this is what I'm trying to say is I think maybe just to help the two young lads out, I think the sort of information should have been for City is we're going to press from the sides. So Rodri, that means that you play 15 yards deeper, stay connected to your back line all the time. Worst case scenario, Fernandes comes in front of you, but you've still got that +1, and then you're not getting stretched all over the pitch.
Yeah, makes sense. So just flipping that to Manchester United out of possession. I think it was quite apparent they were trying to settle in a compact 4-4-2, which we can see here. So I'm looking at some of the building patterns that Manchester City used. We know they like to get the players in the half spaces, but with the compact shape, this forced Dalot to jump out into the wide position. So Dalot and Shaw were straight out onto Doku and Semenyo, giving them very little room. And the problem is always then the half space behind. So as the ball goes to Doku in this scenario, number 20, Silva is in the half space, but Ahmad would drop quickly to prevent Silva getting the ball beyond the defence. Did that really well. Now, Ahmad would stay high at times, but Casemiro would take the responsibility if Ahmad wasn't there. And they also had the insurance of a spare centre back if either Casemiro or Ahmad couldn't make it. And we're going to take a look at some of the examples of this wide play because we thought it was really well coached, considering they only had 3 days on the training ground. It was quite basic, but really well coached. Let's take a look at some of these examples. So as the ball goes into the left centre back of Manchester City, we're looking at Ahmed, who is screening and showing. So screening that ball into Doku, who's going to move inside, and trying to show the pass out wide. Mike, you're just going to cover how Manchester City played into Manchester United hands here and what they could have done.
Yeah, I think just something that really, really disappointed me, and I think if you get to go back and have a look at the game, like any top side, when there's an open touch, has movements beyond. You know, spending 7.5 years at City, this was a non-negotiable. So, like, every time there was an open touch, we had to have them runs beyond. So we always had like a minimum of 5 players in that top line 3 and 4. But when I was watching it, like they just didn't have that mindset and mentality to go and running beyond. Now, don't get me wrong, the distances were perfect for Man United, but here's an example here. So it's an open touch. Now I know the young kid, he's not left-footed, so he's got to take his touch. But Doku's mentality here, and this is what I was looking at, is he should have shifted on the inside of Delat and then he should have made the run. And what can happen then is if he does take the touch and play him in, Maguire has to recover and Martinez from the other side. He could be in on goal straight away. If not, worst case scenario, all right, they're both running back towards the own goal. He might be able to get across him and get a goal. Now, if you just play it on slightly, then pause it again,
Yep.
if Doku isn't going to do the individual movement, then it's got to come from Ake. So these are the counter movements we talk about. So we always talk about individual, counter, and collective, and this sort of relates to the side connection. But you should never move away from the individual. So can Doku do it himself? If he can, it's one ball is in. The second thing is, can we work the counter movements? So if Doku goes inside, all he's trying to do is tempt Dalot in there, and then Ake's got to go. But again, when you play the video on, you'll see takes his touch. Doku goes on to Ahmed, so he's done his job for him, and Ake doesn't go beyond. He's just holding that position. Now, again, just pause it there. The second movement, if this happens, Doku should have gone beyond instantly, so he plays it in first time. This is a pattern that we used to use all the time, and Man City do. Just didn't see any of this. And to be fair, if I'm honest, like they didn't ask enough questions of playing over throughout the whole game. Now, you might not be successful. It just stretches the play a little bit. And again, if you go back and watch the game, so many opportunities could have played beyond, even whether it was individual counter movements or collective movements. They could have just asked more questions of them, and they didn't do it. Do it here in a great example.
Yeah, so just on the Manchester United side of it, again, this plays into their hands where Dalot jumps out wide and Ahmed is quick to retreat to get into that half space area to negate the threat of Doku. But like Mikey said, Doku doesn't offer any threat in behind where he could take Manchester United's counter-attacking threat in Ahmed all the way back into a deeper right back position.
Yeah, we was going mad in the WhatsApp group that there was no runs beyond.
Yeah, on the next one, Mbuemo's actually on the right-hand side. Ahmed and him have just swapped within the scenario and just wanted to highlight the compact 4-4-2 that Manchester United have, preventing anything going through. And Mikey's already covered it, just in terms of the Manchester City front line, all looking towards the ball, no one threatening in behind. We made a slight error with the five there. There's actually six players there, all coming towards the ball rather than threatening the space behind, which makes it quite simple for Manchester United to keep that 4-4-2 compact shape. And Buemo's slightly higher than his midfield line, offering a counter-attacking threat if they do win the ball back. But as that ball is switched, we just look at Mbuemo and Casemiro straight away recovering back into the half space to prevent Silva from creating a threat. Dalot's out wide once again, and he wins the ball off Doku. Anything there, Mikey?
Yeah, just a couple of things. I think in terms of Mbuemo, this was credit to Man United and the staff. Now I know obviously Holland is top draw in terms of his detail and makes it very difficult for the opposition. Principles of play. What I loved about this is Mbuemo's been playing the nine for near enough 40 minutes. He's then gone into that wide position on the 44 minutes just before half time. How many times do you see it where they're just not in their normal shape? They're a little bit disjointed and they get the execution wrong. And Buemo's gone into a wide position here and he gets the role and responsibility right, like he's been playing their whole game. That clearly shows that the detail on the training pitch has been absolutely top draw. So straight away, that was the thing I was looking at and going, absolutely brilliant how they've changed position, but the role and responsibility doesn't change, and they know exactly what's going on. So credit to the players first and foremost, and credit to the staff.
Yeah, Casemiro and Mena were brilliant as well at it, just shifting quickly, the quickest that I've seen them move to really recognise and prevent any danger in the half space. And again, it's definitely been coached. You can see that. This is on the left-hand side. We're just going to look at Dorgu in particular. And again, some of them principles that we're speaking about. So Dorgu just shifting inside to protect the center of the pitch. He's outnumbered here, but his priority shifts into the center of the pitch to prevent, I think it's Cherky getting on the ball. And we're just going to follow him here. Man City recycle player. Again, his priority is going to shift inside again to prevent anything going through. There's the 4-4-2 compact shape. But the player's forced wide. And at this point here, Manchester United have cover on the inside of the pitch. Semenyo's going to try and drive inside. Casemiro wins the ball. Fernandes gives the ball away in this instance, but you can see at the top of the pitch with Ahmad and Mbuemo, they're looking to launch another counter-attack. Anything you want me to go back there, Mikey?
I just think a couple of points I'll add to it. Well, I was pulling my hair out because when you're playing against this type of shape, you need to stretch the four, especially in midfield. You need to make the front two run. And I just think that if you look at the game, you had Rico going into the 10 position alongside Foden. So you had two players doing the same job, and it was bugging me all the time. And then when Shirky come and he was drifting in there, then Rico doing the same job. Now, what that does is, if you put a camera behind the goal, and if you get a chance to do it, you've got the equipment to do it and play this shape. So basically, City was going to a 3-box-3 against a 4-4-2. What that does is it just leaves you the pass to play out to the wide forward, but it's easy for the fullbacks. He only has to concentrate on one thing. So Rico Lewis goes in behind Dogu, let's say, or Shirky. Now the centre back can take him. The ball goes out. Sure, all he needs to do, get there quickly, show him inside. And if you watch, I think both fullbacks were good at it. Ball goes wide. He gets there quickly, shows him inside into where the traffic is. So I think it's really, really simple. And we're not going into it in this tactical analysis, but we could break it down why this 3-box-3, especially with a fullback into a 10 against this. against an organised team like this just doesn't affect it. But that's for another day, mate.
We'll come to it at some point. Yeah, we'll definitely come to it. And in this example, again, it's well coached, but just some of the things that Mikey covered there in terms of Luke Shaw can actually start cheating a little bit now because he knows the ball is going to go out wide. And this is the coaching that we spoke about. It actually goes wrong here. You can see Dorgu is really narrow, but that distance now, Shaw's gone too early. Dorgu is too narrow, and they can find Rico Lewis in that space. But this is where we spoke about the insurance that they've got with that extra centre back. So ball goes through. Again, it's not Rico Lewis's strength in this position. Martinez makes a great tackle, and again, they can launch a counter attack.
If you just rewind, mate, just to
Sorry, do
where,
you want to go back that way? I'll go back.
please, if you don't mind, it's just a quick point. That's all.
Yeah.
Just where the red zone was.
Yep.
I think probably the big thing here, mate, is understanding that we talk about the 70-30 model all the time. So the 70% is what you want to see and how it goes. 30% is when you disorganize, things go wrong. And I think the quicker you can get your team doing like the imbalance stuff, you need to get to the unbalanced stuff. So this scenario, now again, I don't know if this is the coaches have embedded this into the training already around the what ifs. If this happens, we have to deal with it here, or whether it's Martinez just recognizing it. But again, as soon as they did get it wrong, which is going to happen, you can't get it right all the time. I guarantee that. Is then how you deal with it when you're out of balance or they catch you out. And I thought this was either really good from Martinez or really good from the coaching team in terms of the what if scenarios. So these are the two banks of four, but they've brought the line here. What do we do now? So I thought it was really good. I don't know where that came from, whether it's a player or the coaching team. But again, these are the subtle little things that you can see, which is credit to one, the players, and two, the coaching staff. Sorry, mate. Got you to
That's all
put
right.
back.
Just let this play through. I'm just going to cover the two goals that Manchester United scored, just some coaching points that we spotted within them. So we're quite big on this one. This is the rest defense positions, and we don't think that there's an excuse when there is a set play. Now, we've done an article on the rest defense, and a lot of it is based on controlling these three central channels outside of the box. And the control is you're controlling the opponent, you're controlling the space, and you're controlling possession. Now, here, they can't control the possession, they're going to cross the ball, but they can control the space and they can control the opponent. But as we can see, the two players in the wall, it's actually Fernandes who's going to get the assist, and Mbeumo who's going to get the goal. They are not controlled. The control is not there from the Man City players. And as we go on, we've got Rico Lewis in the half space on the right. He does have control of his opponent and that space. Now, Bernardo Silva is in the central space, but he's going to actually retreat. And as he retreats, it's Maguire who wins the header. And at this point now, Manchester City are neither controlling the space or the opponent. Cherky is on his back foot. He hasn't gone forward. And Buemo takes him on. And now this break is fantastic. When you talk about the DNA, this is a goal you recognise from the Manchester United 90s and 2000s team. The pass from Fernandes is immaculate. It's a first time finish, and we encourage some of our practice that we do. We will give extra points for counter-attacking practices if they can play a ball and it can be finished first time. Gives the defenders no time to recover, but no one broke stride. And within probably 5-6 seconds, Manchester United have gone from defending a free kick up to the other end of the pitch and scored the first goal of the game. Anything you want to cover there, Mikey?
Just something, nothing to lose sight of. So don't lose sight of whenever you're a coach putting a practice together and you're talking in possession or attacking organisation, always make sure you've got an eye on the defensive transition and what it looks like. Because one, it'll sustain your attack. So if you set up right in the organisation, you can then sustain the attack. So like you're saying there, ball goes in. If they're set up right, chances are they get a second phase. So whenever you are putting a session together in possession, just always think about the defensive transition. What does it look like? And ultimately, when you're looking at these three zones here, if you can cover them three zones, you're always in a position to make sure that you can win the ball back or you can recover into critical areas and prevent the team doing this.
Worth another watch.
Yeah, it's a great goal, isn't it?
Second goal, we had discussions on this in terms of how we would coach. You know, I played centre back at a professional level, and I was always taught to make sure that nothing could go between the goalkeeper and the defensive line along the floor or certainly at waist height. But at this point now, Ake hasn't recovered into that position. So in terms of if I was coaching this, my priority would be to protect that ball going across below waist height between them two lines, the goalkeeper and the defense. Not worried about what's behind me, not worried about the pullback. For me, that is the priority because any first touch finish in them areas results in a goal. If the player does pull the ball back, there's still a hell of a lot to do to try and get the finish. So in this instance, for me, Ake should be dropping a lot quicker to protect that space. If he's in the position that we marked, we can see he would cut the ball out, but he doesn't. And then behind that, Kuzhinov, he's in two minds whether to go tight with Fernandes for the pullback or we think he should be in that position because Ake wasn't at the front post. He should be in the position to clear in the centre of the goal. Now, Rico Lewis took a little bit of the blame behind that, and rightly so. He should be opened up and scanned to see where Dorgu is. But in the initial error, we believe, one, can they prevent the cross, of course, but that first centre-back position is crucial because anything going across here is going to result in this goal.
Yeah, I think if you just go back to where it highlights all the players, please, mate. So it'll have the zone and all the players.
Yep.
Perfect. Just pause it there. So, yeah, we had a bit of a talking point about this in terms of like language and how you work with your centre backs and everything. So, if you look at the top end now, or even maybe the last couple of decades, strikers are getting familiar with going across the front post and finishing. So, a few years ago at Leeds, when we were doing defending the box practices, one of the things we spoke about was fill and find. So fill that near post. So it's can you get in line with the ball? Can you get in line with the post? Now we know it's very hard to pick up that position all the time. So falling into that 70-30 model. But what we're saying is it's a reference point for a player. And I mentioned about a story earlier about a young centre half who wasn't great at defending the box from wide areas because he'd never really done it and no one had really coached him. And we was just doing multiple drills all the time, and all we talked about was fill the near post. So it's like, can you get in line with the ball? Can you get in line with the post? And then what that does is it gives them that position, which is a better position than what they were in before. Now, if that nearest player does that job, the next two players, which you can clearly see here, they can find. So they can find the mark and deal with it. If that near player, which is Aki, doesn't do that role, the next player does what you spoke about earlier and just fills that zone. Now, you will give away the pullback, but that's a harder pass to score. Now, what we're saying is if Ake does his job there, everybody else does a job. It's no goal. It's as simple as. And there's loads of examples in this game where I think Kuzhinov cut one out early doors, didn't he? Which is really good defending. So it's really, really important if you think about that. And a real sticky message is fill critical areas, and it can be in line with the ball, in line with the post, and they try to cover that as many times as they can within a practice or within a game.
Yep, let that roll on.
Yeah, just a sloppy goal to give away again. There's so many different points there, isn't there?
Yeah, it's far too easy. We have created two Michael Carrick practices, and these are from actual live practices that Michael Carrick has done on the training ground based on the counter attack. And these are available in the collection on the website. We're going to use this recording. It will be up within probably 2 hours. So this will go alongside the practices based on the attacking transition. This was our first live stream. We'd like to thank everyone who has viewed it. The recording will be available for everyone on the website, and we're going to make this one completely free. This is something we're going to continue on a weekly basis. So thank you for taking the time to watch this, and we will see you for the next piece, which will follow next week.